All right, good evening, everybody. We are going to go ahead and start this meeting off. It is 6:30 and roll call. I don't think we're missing anybody. Nope. We're good. We're going to go invocation, moment of silence. We'll have a moment of silence. All right. Now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, citizens to be heard, the longest paragraph we have. All right. This is the only time during the Cibolo Economic Development Corporation meeting that a citizen can address the corporation. It is the opportunity for visitors, guests to address the CEDC on any issue to include agenda items. All visitors wishing to speak must fill out the sign-in roster prior to the start of the meeting. The CEDC may not deliberate any non-agenda issue, nor may any action be taken on any non-agenda issue at this time. However, the CEDC may present any factual response to items brought up by citizens. Attorney General Opinion JC 0169. Limit 3 minutes each. All remarks shall be addressed to the corporation as a body. Remarks may also be addressed to any individual member of the CEDC so long as the remarks are about members or matters of local public concern and not disruptive to the meeting or threatening to the member or any attendee, including city staff. Any person violating this policy may be requested to leave the meeting, but no person may be requested to leave or forced to leave the meeting because of the viewpoint expressed. This meeting is live streamed. We do have one person, and looking for this. Amber Carlton? How are you doing today? Fantastic.
Hi, I just wanted to say hello. I am a member of the core leadership for Maggie at the Chamber, and so one of the requirements is that I come to different meetings and organizations, so it's just, it's very exciting to be here to watch you do your work, and I thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate you showing up. That's awesome. So that is it for members or citizens to be heard. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. So all items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the corporation and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a corporation member requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda. Item 6A, approval of minutes of the regular Economic Development Corporation meeting held April 16th, 2026. 6B, approval of financial and sales tax reports for March 2026. And 6C, approval of reimbursement to the City of Cibolo General Fund for staff time working on Cibolo Economic Development Corporation projects for April 2026. Anybody have anything? Or a motion?
I motion to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting.
I'll second it.
Well, no, it has to be,
Say,
Just you
consent
approve-
6A, 6B, and 6C.
yeah, you approve
Oh.
at 6A, 6B, 6C.
Look at that. Okay. I motion to approve the items 6A, 6B, and 6C
As read.
as written, as read.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, approved. So we'll move on to 7A, committee updates.
Good evening, directors. This is the new item we've added to our agenda. Our committees have started meeting. The grant committee meeting went first, and then we did the small business, we did the art committee, then the small business grant committee, and then the historic preservation committee met today. If those members want to provide a brief update, that's great. If not, we can provide an update in an email to the board, probably mid next week. It's up to the board.
I'll go. So today we met as the preservation subcommittee, and we just kind of laid out how we're going to move forward. We need to set up some guidelines on how we're going to look at houses or properties and how that's going to work. And then our take-home homework was for us to each submit what year do we think a building has to, how old does a building have to be for us to consider it for preservation? Not based on any rules or regulation, but we as a body, what do we think? Is it 1960? Is it 1950? Is it 1940? So that was our take home. So we have to do that. And really, we just met. Today was our first meeting, and we just kind of laid out some things. And Luke, who isn't here, kind of gave us some of his thoughts on moving forward. And he showed us what is and what could be on several buildings that we might want to consider for preservation. And that was it. Did I miss anything, Terry?
No, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We just, there's a couple of specific buildings that, come to mind first. We had some discussions about that, but, no one, we're not comfortable moving, saying that something needs to be done until we know what the guidelines are and appreciate that. One of them is, I'll speak to two. How involved does the EDC get in a preservation project? And then from that, what would we consider a preservation project? And that starts, like Patricia was saying, at what point do we consider a facility historic to Cibolo? Not trying to be using the guidelines of like a national historic, what do you call that? National Historic Committee or Commission. Not that strict, but something that has been a part of Cibolo. Basically the entirety of the structure. So how far back, when do we say it's not truly historic? It might be old, but it's not historic any longer. So, yeah, so early concept about establishing guidelines.
Fantastic. Getting some ground rules, figuring it out, and just keep building on that. Will be the next step. I know with the grant, we talked about how we're going to move forward with kind of basically meshing both of them together and making it all one to encompass the city of Cibolo as a whole, not just Old Town and then the other part of Cibolo. It's all of Cibolo. Cibolo is Cibolo. So that's a step for that committee. What was the other one?
I'm on the art project, basically, and so I met with Clancy. And I actually sent over just some broad ideas, because I felt that Seguin being so close, having the squirrels, while that's a great idea, I didn't want to replicate it. So I came up with some possible ideas, like a light installation at major areas. A great idea was something that people could walk inside of. Have you ever been to Corpus and there's the shark that you can kind of walk in the mouth? Maybe something downtown like that is like the pinnacle item. And then the rest of it being in different areas like that would light up. I thought that was an idea, but I'm not married to anything because I'm not the only person.
That's what ideas, that's why we have ideas. So we can brainstorm.
We
off
can
of
get
them.
a shark?
No, we cannot.
Shark eating buffalo.
Let's put some lasers on the shark.
Oh, but the beginning of it, the one thing I did like was I called it Run with the Herd. And then there was a tagline that said, be a part of the Cibolo community running together, or something like that. I forget what I put, but it was kind of cool. I thought that was kind of an interesting idea.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
This is an open meeting, so that was a picture of my grandson being chased by the buffalo on the Buffalo Crossing landmark sign. So we've already got the idea started here. So.
Running with her. This is awesome. I like the way it's going. It's good. Fantastic.
There's a squirrel.
Are those the only three committees we have, correct?
Yes, all three committees are up and working. In all transparency, we all believe that the grant committee could probably be done by July, August timeframe. The Historic Preservation Committee, that's going to be a committee that sticks through, and even the art committee too will be something that sticks through. It may become like a as-needed type committee, but they've all met. We've got those wheels turning now, and we're going to start pushing out things. So Luke is spearheading the Historic Preservation one and the grant one with my assistance on the grant one, and then I'm helping with the public art one, given my background. So
Fantastic. Moving forward. I like it.
No, there's somebody else. I think it's Kevin.
Kevin's on the art committee.
But he trusts me enough.
Well, it was the day that everything flooded, so I knew Kevin
just
probably probably wouldn't have made it. But yes, he trusts.
He trusts me.
All right. If there's nothing else, I'll move on to 8. So, discussion actions related to Old Town Master Plan. Clancy?
So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Aaron Spencer, our counterpart in planning, Assistant Director of Planning. He's going to go over the presentation you'll receive this evening and give his own brief presentation. So, Aaron.
Fantastic. How are you doing this evening?
Doing well. Good evening, directors, mayor. I feel like it's been a while since the last time I've been in front of you all. I think it was with the I-10 corridor plan. I believe a few of you currently sitting here were on that subcommittee. But yeah, here we're talking about Old Town. I did just want to give a little bit of a background about the downtown master plan that's currently in place before we talk about the Old Town plan that's on your agenda for tonight, just to give a little bit of context to those. Before you were seated, we were tasked to review and present on the downtown plan, and this is coming from City Council's strategic plan. These initiatives in terms of the downtown plan, amending it, these are strategic initiatives that are under economic development, and 160,000 in EDC funds were allocated for this project. This is just the PowerPoint presentation that was given to City Council. We went to Council 2 times, the first being in June, as you see here. This presentation was back in September of 2024, and we had asked Council basically what elements did they want to see that wasn't present in the existing plan that they want to see in this plan. So the existing plan, as you see on the left-hand side, the elements that were covered, it's very narrow and focused on one 12-acre site, one block within Old Town, starting at the City Hall Annex property, as well as the other surrounding properties. So it lacked a lot of what the actual area entailed. I believe it was about 240 acres in total for the downtown area, but it only focused on 12 acres. Another issue was the fact that it didn't have an implementation plan. Normally what you see in your plan, as well as your economic development plan, you have implementation and action items that you want to take. So at that time, there wasn't really a way to implement the plan due to that reason. And the other reason was the fact that in the grand scheme of things, trying to build everything out that was proposed on that property, they were looking at a community center, a civic center, playground, park area, as well as ground level commercial and apartments on top. All that came out to, in terms of building out as well as land acquisition, roughly $30 million back in 2014. So looking at the city's debt capacity back in 2013, there was about 8.5 million that the city had tied up in for debt capacity. So that far exceeded that 30 million amount So it didn't really make this plan feasible from an implementation standpoint. But whenever we did go back to council, we had some project objectives that we identified as staff, as well as the feedback that we got from city council on June. And we came back to them with these project objectives, one of those being the boundary of Old Town. You can see here on the left-hand side, this was the future land use map back in 2014, and how it looks different to the overlay district map on the right. You're seeing a little bit more inclusion here of the Marion Dolford Learning Center here on this side. That's not here on the other side. You're seeing a little bit south of FM 78 here. That's also not here. And then you're also seeing a little bit more on this east side that's included, that doesn't include like the bowling alley or the remainder of the property that's actually in the floodplain here. And so we wanted to get consistent and clear boundaries. And I'll just breeze through the rest of these because I know that our consultant is here to give their presentation. A vision, we want to make sure that the vision is consistent with the Old Town place type. So this place type was in the comprehensive plan, and it gave that background whenever we went to the community of what they wanted to see in Old Town. So having something that was consistent with that. Neighborhood preservation, of course, we want to keep the unique character of Old Town. Events and gathering places, this was something that was added by council. They wanted to see a space that was dedicated in Old Town specific to that. Parking, of course, that's an issue. So having some sort of recommendations to parking and how we manage that. Pedestrian safety and accessibility in regards to sidewalks, and we have a very sparse network of sidewalks within Old Town. Economic development, of course, wanting to definitely encourage our independent small businesses in Old Town, as well as this is an excerpt here from your economic strategic plan. There's different opportunity sites that the consultants for your strategic plan had identified. I would just bring focus to this orange area here, being the city's City Hall Annex property. You'll see that and how it relates to this plan with our consultants, what they had recommended, as well as how that translates with the vision and everything prior to our development regulations. Of course, we don't want something that prohibits all of what we're trying to accomplish with the vision and the goals of this plan. How does this translate to the development community? As well as drainage. Of course, there's issues, of course, with that floodplain area just east of Main Street. How can we incorporate drainage within Old Town that functions well? And lastly, our implementation and funding strategies. So one thing, of course, that the last plan did not have was an implementation matrix. We can definitely be on a better path if we do have something to reference in terms of who's responsible for what and how much we're looking at in terms of the potential funds for each of these action items. One of the things included within this was it to be incorporated within the city's 5-year CIP. Of course, we want to make sure that the infrastructure and everything that's needed for this area kind of has that capability for council to give their blessing in terms of the city's 5-year CIP projects that come before it. And that can help put what is shown in this plan into motion. So I'm just going to stop it here. I think you all have all of this within your packet with this presentation. This was just to give a little brief background. If you all don't have any questions for me at this time, I'm going to hand it over to our consultants with Lionheart Places. Abby and her team, they helped with this project from start to finish. They were involved with all the public engagement and all the processes involved with that, as well as helping with our Old Town Advisory Committee. And so hopefully what she can have for you all is reasonable, because what we're seeking from you all is your feedback and opinion. So however you feel with this project at this current state, if if we feel comfortable with moving this forward, we do have this scheduled for potentially tentatively, of course, after this meeting for the June 9th City Council meeting. But with that being said, I'll hand it over to Abby so that she can take it over.
Thanks, Aaron.
Good evening.
Good evening. It's good to be here at the end of this process. We've really enjoyed working in Cibolo, really enjoyed getting to know your community, and so I'm happy to be here. So Abby Gilfillan with Lionheart Places, and yeah, I'll go. Will this work? Yep. Okay. So I'm going to jump right in, but I encourage you, if you've got questions along the way, I've got a lot of slides in here. But I encourage you to feel free to stop me if you've got some questions or comments along the way. And I've got a lot of slides in here because there is a lot of content, but I'm going to move through them fast, so also feel free to stop me at any point. All right, so in terms of timeline, we are right on schedule and right on track. We started this in spring of last year. And we're back before you here in spring got the final draft out about a month ago or so, and hoping to move on through this meeting and City Council coming up here in June. I would say along the way we've had a lot of community engagement. Let's see, we can talk a little bit here about our process. What we did is we started off in September of 2025, and we had our first advisory committee meeting, and we also had a what we call our stakeholder dialogue right after that. So the way we kind of structured our community engagement here is we had an advisory committee meeting that was typically always about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of some kind of a larger stakeholder event. And we did that so that we could use our advisory committee to test the information on, make sure we were getting things right. Mr. Hines was part of the advisory committee, so we appreciated all of his participation and involvement in that. So we started off with a big listening campaign and focus groups. We were here all day. We had teams that were walking all around Old Town, taking pictures, talking to business owners, and went out to some of the Cibolo nights, and we just were here all day long and got to meet a lot of different people, and we were really at that point, we were just listening, trying to understand what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, so that we can start to try and craft those into, and so that we can understand too what to study. Because that's what we did right after that, is we really moved into understanding existing conditions. So measuring what's on the ground, getting all of the data that we could get and analyzing that. And we really wanted to make sure to focus our study on the things that were important to community and to residents. So that's where that really helped us in that first piece. So then we came back and we presented a lot of those findings, and we also started to really hone in on what the vision and goals were. And so that was our first step. After that, we presented some of the analysis. So vision and goals. Uh-oh. Huh. There's a lot of color. Yeah, maybe it's a slow download. Do you think if can I actually download, or? Oh, is it starting? No? Refresh? Okay. So community engagement, vision and goals. All right, here it is. So vision and goals, this is really important. I'm going to read all of these. This is really what kind of guided us through the whole process. This was something that we established with the community during those first 2 meetings, actually. And so the first one was to foster community-wide support of Old Town as the heart of Cibolo. So one of the things that we heard people say, gosh, like, we've got lots of folks that live in Cibolo that may not even know that Old Town exists. And Old Town needs to be really the priority, the heart of the community, where community events happen, and to really be, so fostering community-wide support of that was one of the key goals there. The next one was to strengthen and preserve the unique character of Old Town. So understanding that this plan was to build off of the strengths that already exist there, the things that have made Old Town super successful. Those are the things that we really wanted to focus on building on. Enhancing the experience of visitors and residents. So we really want to have this curated visitor experience from arrival all the way to departure. And that's something that the community wanted to prioritize with that goal. Want to invest in district-wide shared solutions for drainage, parking, traffic, to really help support Old Town businesses and residents. One of the things that, when you think about a newly developed shopping center or something like that, they have the benefit of being newly developed and one big lot, and they're sharing all of those resources already in historic downtowns and older places. You're cut up into lots of different property owners and landowners and businesses. And so when each individual property has to include all of those things on their lot, it starts to get pretty hard to make that happen. And so everything from drainage to parking to infrastructure solutions on small properties, it's hard to make all of that happen. And so being able to share in district-wide resources was a real goal for this plan, and to provide a guidepost to how to do that. And then really leveraging the existing public spaces in Old Town to support business and vibrancy. So those were the last goals. So these are the vision and goals that we used. Sure, yeah.
You had one, if it's go back, it said, enhance the experience of visitors and residents, a curated visitor experience. What do you mean by curated? What is that?
So it means to just sort of think about what is the experience that somebody has, and to be intentional about it, to curate it, to make it happen. So, and to even know that you've arrived in Old Town. So you'll see as we get to some of the other framework, it's like to have, something like signs that say you've arrived in Old Town that point you to where to park, for example.
So you're sort of using the word curated as branded,
Yeah.
branded experience.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I might have to, is there a way to download? Would that be easier, or should I just?
What do you need to do?
It just keeps going away.
We have it in our packets, if that's what we need to do. Pretty far to the back. Way down here.
No.
Notes and conditions.
That's it, I have to stick with this.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Oh, perfect. That'll be much better. All right, this should work. Okay, so I said we studied. One of the things you heard in Aaron's, one of the goals of this project was to really look at the boundaries and establish consistent boundaries. During that phase, we actually went ahead and expanded the boundaries in a couple of areas, one being the properties across from HEB, and we think of that as the approach into Old Town, and then the other on the south side of Main Street, this square here. So a couple of changes to the boundaries there. We looked at population, and as Cibolo's growth grown very fast. A lot of the growth is mostly up by around I-35 and is moving this direction. So in looking at these census tracts that make up Old Town, they haven't seen the growth that some of the other census tracts have seen, but it does seem to be moving this way. So it's good to do this planning and to think about planning for that growth as it comes here. Character, about 1 in 5 buildings in Old Town were built before 1950. A lot of these buildings have been revitalized. We've seen a lot of older homes turned into businesses, which is really great and keeps that character alive of Old Town. Hydrology and drainage. Old Town faces chronic flooding due to its location between town and Cibolo / Deach creeks, watersheds there. So it's also flat. So it is difficult for the water to move away. In addition, you have very small rights of way where typically streets have curbs and gutters so that when rain lands on it, it goes into the gutters, into a storm system that hauls it away. But in Cibolo, Old Town, you don't have that. And you have very narrow streets where there's not enough room for it. So one of the chief recommendations here is that you actually need to do a drainage study in order to, solve some of those problems of being able to move water. We did have engineers as part of this project, and with that, they gave us some kind of solutions in the temporary or things that you could do. And we also started to look at where is that open space network, and how can we start to ensure that when drainage solutions do get put in place, that they are matching the character of Old Town and keeping consistent with that.
And you're specifically talking about a drainage study, not a flood study, correct?
Yeah, I guess it would be drainage. Yes, I think it's drainage to get drainage infrastructure to move the water out. Yeah.
Will you do the flood first to get the drainage information, or do you need to do them in conjunction?
I'm not sure. I would rely on your engineers to answer that question. But I can say that is one of the recommendations in here is a drainage study.
Okay.
And so exactly how they would do that and if they would look at the flood first. And I'm not sure how recent your flood studies have been in here, so.
Mr. Saif El Hadid has gotten approval through our watershed partnership through the Texas Water Development Board, and they are going to be doing a flood study. I don't know if it's going to be for all of Cibolo or just the unstudied floodplain on the other side of FM 1103 in Saddle Creek Ranch in that Heights of Cibolo area, or if it will extend into downtown.
Okay, I know a flood study is not a cheap process, especially, and then you add drainage on it, it's not cheap. I know we don't flood down here, but I know we hold water a little more than we should. But if that's something that's can possibly be done, that'd be awesome.
The other thing we looked at was infrastructure. So about 58% of the sewer lines are 20 plus years old. You've still got clay system as well as some that's unknown. In terms of the width of streets, we've talked about this already. You've got some streets that are as narrow as 30 feet, others 40 to 50. And you can see these lines here kind of reflect the right-of-way as you move through Main Street. And so you can see there's no consistency there. It gets bigger and smaller as you go. And so those are some of the things that we looked at during existing conditions. Traveling in or around Main Street or Old Town, there are a lot of areas where the sidewalks are lacking and definitely inconsistent. South of Railroad Street, Main Street is 50 to 60 feet wide. And so it's still really too narrow for major upgrades. In terms of parks and open space, really recognize that there is a need for a central gathering space or a community common space within Old Town. And so that's something that we recognize, not just from what folks were telling us, but also from the data. There just isn't much in that central part of Old Town. So those are some of the key takeaways from the existing conditions research. Now we'll move into so what? So that was all what we heard from folks as well as what we saw on the ground. And how do you move forward from there? And so that's where we developed this framework. We call it the heart and the hub. And so there's really kind of three different frameworks that lay on top of each other for this. We have green space. And so with that one, it's really about connecting to that trail system that runs through the creek and bringing that trail system into Old Town and circulating it around through there and back out. And we have a wayfinding. So you can see those circles on the framework plan there are places where potentially you can have signage. So on the way on either side of the Old Town, maybe that's something a little larger, maybe it's over the road or next to it, but some sort of signage to let folks know you've entered Old Town. And then we have smaller signage, smaller circles all around, which would also be other opportunities to let people know that it's this way to Old Town. So it's that wayfinding that could be really helpful.
I know we've talked about having signage over there towards HEB and over here, even over the road, just a big Cibolo rock sign or a buffalo.
May
We've
I
talked about different-
recommend a very large buffalo you could stand inside?
There you go.
I know certain things that we can't have something over the street, or there's certain stipulations and stuff like that, but we've talked about that in the past. Yeah.
Yep.
Is this proposed road on our flume or our future thoroughfare?
It is not currently. This one is not. This is something that we identified through the process as a potential addition.
Are you sure that wasn't on the master plan?
I think it was.
I think we proposed it on the master plan. I think I've fought for that.
Say that again?
That proposed road, I think I put that on the master plan. Or not me, we, as a group.
You requested to put it on the master thoroughfare plan?
Yes.
Okay.
'Cause that's
We need
Gulf-
to take a
that's
look at
Gulf
that.
Street, isn't it?
That's Slaughter
There was a
Street.
connection.
There's Slaughter
We
and
wanted a
Gulf.
connection from 1103 there.
Well, Gulf can't connect anymore because of the business buildup, but it's connecting Slaughter to 1103.
Okay.
That's how we,
In one manner.
I believe we did that in the master plan. Is that not correct, Heinz?
I don't recall it being on the master plan, but it might be.
Yeah,
It
I
may
think
be,
we
but-
did, so.
But there was quite a bit of conversation about how do we have another, not just another entrance to downtown, but how do we have another exit? And let the residents have a easier opportunity to
Get out.
leave the vibrant downtown area because they're residents and want to go someplace else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is the trails already there, or is that future?
Future, so the dotted, so there are some trails behind the HEB, and then dotted after that, so, or the proposed, yep. Okay. So looking at this pulled apart into the three different frameworks, you can kind of see how the green space as well as the character. So I'm going to focus in there on the heart and the hub piece with the middle one, the wayfinding and character. We've identified that to really focus on the Main Street core, the buildings and the businesses facing Main Street, improving Main Street there, the sidewalks and the streetscaping there to support those businesses, as well as a additional, what we're calling the hub of the heart and the hub, so the Main Street being the heart, and then that new hub, which would be a public-private partnership to develop a central hub for Old Town.
Would this be adding new sidewalks or just reconditioning the ones we already have?
So it would be connecting them. So you've got kind of a disconnected sidewalk system along Main Street. So it's just kind of making sure that they're all connected and that you have safe pedestrian facilities along there.
Yeah, when it was put in, they said it was a wandering sidewalk. So
Yeah.
it would feel both sides of the road, but would that take land away from people that are already there?
Well, we're not recommending right-of-way acquisition because you've got buildings right up to the right-of-way. So, we wouldn't want to be taking any
Yeah.
buildings.
Absolutely not.
Nope. And we're also not, saying, and you also don't want to widen the street out. But there are ways, and so I'll get through here a little further, but there are ways to really focus on sidewalk and pedestrian connections.
Yeah, as long as we're not taking any more property away from anybody that's there that's not already the city's.
Yep, yeah, there's no recommendations for that in here.
Okay.
So I want to go through a little bit of how this community hub could happen. So this is a vision that we came up working a lot with the advisory committee and through the stakeholder meetings. I'm going to jump actually first to this one to show you what the end product could look like, and then talk to you a little bit about how you could get there. So this is a vision plan. It doesn't mean it's going to build this way, and most likely it won't. But once you have a picture and a vision in people's minds, that can really start to help catalyze. And there are certain parts of this that may end up happening similar to this. So this is, I will now come up here. And when you're looking at the property, this is made up of both public, which is the property in purple here, as well as private property. And so that's where that public-private partnership element comes in. You can see what one of the other recommendations as part of this plan is a TERS for the Old Town District. A TERS is a tax increment reinvestment zone. And so what that does when you establish a TERS, because we are anticipating that there's more growth going to be coming to Old Town, more investment in Old Town, a TERS sets the tax rate at what it is today. And then as new growth and property values go up, that increment between what it is today and where you are gets put into a fund. The city council can select how much of a percent of that gets put into that fund. And then you typically have a TERS board who puts a plan together to say how those funds could be spent. And cities and communities do that in a lot of different ways. We've got a few recommendations in here for ways that you could consider using that fund if you establish a TERS. One of them being to help with some of the infrastructure in this district here. So as you create more value.
Unlimited for public improvement zone?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Public improvement zone.
I was gonna ask that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what we've identified in here are some public improvements, like the streets and the drainage, because that's one of the challenges that we talked about before, is small business owners and property owners installing streets, water lines, wastewater lines. All of that gets very costly for small property owners and business owners, as different than if you have a large development. And so public-private partnership being that the city participates and helps with some of the public infrastructure investments. And what that does is it catalyzes and sets up private property owners to be able to develop. Another thing that the city could do as part of this partnership that we're showing here is that the city could sell portions of that purple property there back to the private sector. And that's another source of funding to help implement this type of a plan. So step one here is to get some of this initial infrastructure in. We're showing some more parking over here. We're showing this road connecting along here. Then what that does is it allows some buildings to build up along that road, as well as some parking here. The next stage or step could be to connect the road down here and to build out this central hub. So this is the hub, this is the gathering place. It's right behind the City Hall Annex building, where there's that central green space that could be developed. And then that starts to open up more property for private sector to develop over here next to it. And you can see the final build out over here of the whole area, including this road here connecting. So like I said, this is a vision of how it could happen. But the main thing there is that really to make it happen, it will take partnership, and it'll take willing property owners and the public sector to participate and to make that happen.
This honestly looks like it would just take 20 years to even think about getting done, between what the city needs to do compared to doing this and then getting landowners involved and putting extra thoroughfares through, and we got other things that the city needs to do besides spend $30 million on something like this. Seems like way out of the realm.
So I guess thanks for that feedback. And that is something that we heard, through the process is how could you get, and so one of the things you're seeing there is that where the city now owns everything in purple right here, to develop all of that was cost prohibited, especially without any kind of infrastructure there. But when you start to partner and have the private sector building and being part of that development, then it starts to become a little bit more realistic, particularly when you can sell off and you're not developing the entire tract anymore as the city property, but starting to see more of that move over into the private sector. One of the things you'll see in the plan is some examples of other communities that have done it. Hutto had a project that they've done. If you've been to Hutto, they've got a civic community center there. The other one that we looked at was Buda Mill and Grain, and that's one that is all private, but there was definitely public participation in making that happen. So those are the ways that communities, and it's one of the things that both of those communities were in the same place that Old Town was, and thinking we really need that central gathering place and that place that everybody comes. And so those are some of the ways to make that happen. The other thing that you'll see in this plan are some, and we worked really closely with Aaron and the development code, folks that are writing the development code, to talk about what is the character and what are some of the standards that then translate over to what gets built into the development code. So with that, we looked at 4 different kind of character areas. The approach is essentially the places as you're approaching Old Town on either side and facing Main Street there. You want to keep the scale, closely matching what's in Old Town, so it's 1 to 2 stories, predominantly commercial, but the development is new, right? It's new. Those are new buildings that would be going in both of those places. Along Main Street, really encouraging to reuse existing buildings, mostly commercial again. Looking at the Loop 539 corridor, this is kind of your opportunity to have maybe a little bit more height, a little bit more building, especially right there where it says Loop 539 corridor. That's an area where you could potentially see a little bit more density and a little bit more height. And that would also be new buildings along there. And then everywhere in blue, which is where you have the existing, a whole mix of older and newer buildings, residential buildings in there, those are opportunities to really reuse those buildings and create more opportunities for commercial and some of those small spaces like that. So that helped to provide some direction to the development, to the crew that's writing the development code. The other thing we did as part of this plan, you'll see in there, is we looked at what do streets look like in Old Town. A lot of the feedback we got is that the streets in Old Town, like they are, really define a lot of the character of Old Town, and they should, mostly stay like they are. People did not want to see big, additional right-of-way and things like that to make the streets, to get the curb and gutter in there and to make them be able to function like traditional subdivision streets. They really like the way they look now. And so some of the things you'll see is there are ways to make them particularly, and we've selected a few spots, like along Rawi Street, along File Street, where there's some opportunities. You're already seeing some of those residential buildings turn into commercial, and there's some opportunities to just do some nice stuff to share the street. So with only 30 feet of right-of-way, there's not enough room to have separate sidewalks. There's not enough room to separate all of the uses because you've only got 30 feet. And so there's things that cities have done with just paint on the street that can really start to define and let people know this is a shared street, slow down, people will be walking here. And that can help support the businesses that are starting to grow on either side of it. As you get a little bit bigger into 40 feet of right-of-way, maybe you can even include a little bit of parking, on-street parking, which again will start to really help the businesses. And again, that's something that you can do with primarily just paint on the street, signage, those sorts of things. And then once you get a little bit more room, and after you have a drainage study that determines where it's needed, you can start to use that little bit of extra space for drainage in the street. All right, you heard Aaron talk about really wanting a robust section of strategies and implementation steps, and that's something that our advisory committee talked about a lot as well. I'm going to go through these, but we have 8 different overall strategies. Within all 8 of these strategies, there are specific actions. We call those either projects. Those are the more pricey ones. That's where you've got shovels in the ground and you're moving dirt. Infrastructure is really expensive. So there's projects. There are a lot of programs, and there are a lot of policies that are all part of this implementation chapter in here. So these are the 8 overall strategies. I'm going to take you through each one quickly. So the first one is that community hub. We've broken down how this could start happening in phases, and it really starts with setting that tax increment reinvestment zone, and the next one is to update development standards. That's already underway, which is great, and we've provided a lot of direction for that process as it goes through. The next one is creating an area-wide consolidated parking plan. A lot of the actions in here are revolve around a park once type of a program or policy. To do that, what you want to do is a lot of times really just having some signage when particularly visitors are coming to Old Town. If you don't know where to park, you might be driving around for a while even just to find it, and that raises like some frustration level, right? You come into town, you're like, where do I park? I don't know. I can't get to that business where I want to go. I can't park right in front of it. But if when you're coming into town, you see that purple P with an arrow this way, when you look at adding parking, you typically don't want your parking right on Main Street, right? Because that's the area where you want your activation, your businesses. And so you can create surface parking lots. You can do that as you've done a number of really nice parking lots, shared parking lots in Old Town. You can continue to do that. We've identified the right-of-way there, the railroad right-of-way, which you've already used as a great opportunity if you're able to continue to do that. But really signing where that is. Another thing that can be a great first step towards a parking program is to work with businesses to have their employees park in those shared parking spaces instead of the prime parking right downtown. So that's something you can do through just a program, awareness of working with that. So a shared employee parking area is a good thing to do. Another recommendation that comes out of here is to not have parking requirements on each individual lot. What happens if each individual lot has to provide their own parking? Then it makes it really hard for like those to see the old homes convert into businesses because there's just really no room to park. And so that's another recommendation that comes out of here on the parking side. Enhancing safety and comfort. This is about Main Street, just improving pedestrian infrastructure and walkability to the greatest extent possible. Also, looking at Loop 539, and as that develops, as you get development on either side of that, you want to have strong standards in there for walkability and sidewalks so that as developers redevelop those, they can make sure to get that in, that it's unified, that it works from one property to another. And you can do that through your development code as well as some design guidelines. And those guidelines can come in this one as well to design streets for people and drainage. So this is where you saw some of those action steps like just paint on the roads, signage, things like that to really encourage that shared use walking spaces and things like that. And one of the actions in here is to have a manual, a streetscapes manual that starts to show where are the streets that you want to prioritize for that. We've started showing some of the streets that you would want to prioritize that in the plan as well. Being strategic about infrastructure investments, and so one of the first things about seeing some of those catalytic sites redevelop is that you need to have infrastructure there available for them to redevelop with. And so looking at your utility system, you have a lot of old wastewater downtown, looking at that utility system to figure out where those improvements need to be made, and to talk about how that could be done. Street sections and right-of-way, again, is part of that. Those are some of those low-cost interventions that are in this one as well. Beautification and maintenance. So this is really about that operations and maintenance plan for public spaces and right-of-way areas. You want to treat Old Town differently when it comes to your crews maintaining streets. There's just a little bit more to it, right? And so creating those operations and maintenance plans, understanding that Old Town is special, needs to be maintained in a little bit different way, and making sure that that's done. Bringing more people to Old Town. So this is about events, it's about festivals, about logically placing those. It's about updating the thoroughfare plan to add that new street and those new connections, establishing wayfinding, the signage systems. And then the other thing we have in here and that you'll see in the plan is that we've really identified some of these priority actions and quick wins. One of the things that we heard from the advisory committee throughout that was really important was that this plan does get implemented, that it doesn't sit on a shelf. And so with that, we've identified a lot of these quick wins that are low cost, that can be done right away in order to start moving Cibolo and Old Town forward. So a lot of those in that first priority actions for implementation. One of those is to establish that TERS. The sooner you establish it, the sooner your base is set so that you can start capturing that increment as you see redevelopment. And then the other one is about development code, getting that put in place to establish, to allow people to redevelop in the character that you want to see. Other quick wins for streets include a streetscape manual, updating some street sections that are key and where you're already seeing some business redevelopment in some of those smaller street sections, just putting in some of those low-cost improvements to really enhance those. Parking, there's some, I think, again, unified development code to adjust the requirements for off-streets parking in downtown, and implementing some shared parking agreements. And then for operations and maintenance is public spaces and right-of-way areas. So those are programs you can put in place for that. So I think that is all I've got.
Yeah, this is a lot of information.
It is, yeah.
So at the beginning, Aaron, correct? You said we budgeted 160,000 for this already?
Yes, sir. 160,000 was budgeted for this Old Town plan.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure we already,
It was FY '24.
okay. Yeah, it's been a while. What's the total time frame of what a project like this would take? If we implemented it like step by step and we're able to do it?
We've got it's a 10-year horizon on this one. So we've got a lot of these things can start happening now. But the hub being one of the ones that probably takes the longest, that one could be out to 10
And
years.
that's
Most
if-
of the other ones are within that 5-year CIP timeframe.
And that's if everything goes perfectly and
That's right.
everybody's on board. How would all this get paid for?
So so cost was something that we were really aware of throughout. And so a lot of those things are, we didn't identify a lot of really high cost items, but the TERS is an opportunity to generate some funds for some of the high cost items. The other ones I would refer to staff, but the other ones are mainly around programs and policies. And so those would typically come out of your
I'm sure there's
out of
grants
your general
available and
fund
stuff
budget.
like that too. grants available and stuff like that too, right?
Yeah, I don't want to
Sure.
speak for every other department, but if we were asked to kick in funds for this body, I would recommend exploring grant funding before this body considers funding anything additional.
Right.
What is the projected influx, like, what do we gain from that? Is there a projection of what the city gets in terms of bringing people in and, what does that look like?
Well, I think one of the things that we heard when we came here was just that people were really happy with the success of Old Town that's already happened. All of the business that's been generated, all of the great opportunities that have happened. It's a really, really unique space. And so we would hope that we're just furthering on that and building on that, and increasing more retail and food and beverage and more visitors. One of the things that we heard a lot and we talked about, that potentially in the hub space there, something happening would be like a hotel. So something that we heard is that folks, there's no hotels to stay if you were to come here, and so starting to maybe transition into having people stay longer.
Is there a percentage amount that it could boost the economy, like it would boost it 15%, 30%, or anything like that?
We didn't do any economic projections.
Okay.
This is my issue with these kinds of plans. So from my perspective, it's a great concept. And I understand to a certain degree that some of our zoning classifications will potentially be impacted because of development of this plan, which is a projection that lacks two things. It lacks the planned infrastructure improvements required for us to attract economic development the way that it needs, the way that we have to place it for those investors, those private investors to come. We don't have that infrastructure in place, and we should. And so I think I did not support the Old Town Plan. I would have supported a very structured, very hardcore CIP plan for this entity to spend its money on. Fix the water lines, fix the sewer lines, fix your fire hydrants, fix your roads, fix your flooding. And once we had those parameters outlined and a projection of how to get them funded, either through the CIP or this board, because this body can fund public infrastructure improvements, especially if it's going to produce economic development. So again, this is a reason I think these kinds of plans are cart before the horse, but maybe they're carrot before the donkey. I don't know. Either way, we have constantly ignored the requirement of this body to assist and aid in economic development proactively,
That's what we do.
preparing the
We already do that.
infrastructure. Well,
The infrastructure is the city council's responsibility mainly, not ours.
I think it's a joint. I think we do have to work together, and I think
We
this
do.
has been a problem consistently with us moving forward in O-Town. So we have to decide, but we did this study, we paid for this. The people
Yes.
came, the people spoke, so now we
Yes.
know what we want. Now we just have to find a way to get there. And I think it's not EDC only, and it's not council
Well-
only, but I do feel like it's a shared responsibility.
I don't think this is EDC's fault.
No, we're not talking fault. I'm
I'm not-
talking moving forward. I think we all have a responsibility in this. and if
We've
we're gonna
done
move
this
forward-
3 times, and this is the 3rd time. So what I meant by that, Justin, was no disrespect to the EDC. It is to the way that our economic development needs to be bringing to this body the concerns that of the water and the sewer and the fire lines. That needs to be paramount. This is motivational for sure. When you see what you can create, what could possibly be down there, if you build it, they will come kind of concept. But I think that we should be you should have been provided the stormwater plan first, the water, we have, I don't even want to talk about our water lines down there or our sewer lines down there, realistically.
But it's referenced in here.
Yes, but how much did we spend on this study? I'm just saying, we need to prioritize putting the infrastructure in place, putting the money in CIP. We put 115 this year, 115 next year. Before you know it, we have Old Town bones ready for the entrepreneurs, ready for the people with the vision. That's what I'm saying, is that
Would city council be willing to do the same thing, where we can both come together and figure out how to do it productively for the constituents, the businesses, everybody involved, not just us? City council has to be involved also, where we can all communicate and figure out a good plan on how to do all that.
Mr.
come
President,
together. Yes, sir.
if I could just go ahead and interject a bit here. So as I had the opportunity, and I really appreciate having that opportunity to serve on this particular committee, the Downtown Revitalization Committee with Patricia. You were there the whole time as well. And so everything everyone was talking about was the groundwork for this whole project. We get together, what do you want? How did we get there? What's keeping us from getting there? So what's keeping us from getting there was the driving force for the conversations of how do we get there, which came to infrastructure. Our infrastructure is ancient. It's been here since, this was Cibolo. This was all there was Cibolo. So how do we fix that? Can this district pay for that? No. So how do you pay for that? Then you expand the taxing district. That's where the TERS conversation came in. The TERS doesn't have to be just in the downtown Main Street area. The TERS, we have a lot of vacant space from, basically from Santa Clara all the way to Shirts, all along 1103, up to HEB. We can include all of those areas in the TERS, and what you're doing with the TERS is you cap, exactly like what you explained, you're capping the tax dollars that the cities receive in those areas. It's kind of a natural process that the properties will be worth a little bit more next year. So right now, let's say we're receiving $500 from all of these areas in city tax dollars. Next year, we'll be getting $800. But as you are gaining dollars, and the council is planning on CIP projects, how do you do that? And how do you pay the CIP projects back faster, quicker, easier? And that's by the combination of, you plan your capital improvement projects, you use the TERS funding mechanism. It's not a tax increase on the people who actually live or work in the TERS zone. It's a different way of receiving. Help me if I'm where I stumble, Frank. It's a way of receiving more funding to actually improve that area, so that not only you can gain more businesses, but the businesses that you have up-to-date services, better services. The residents that live here and choose to live here and always want to live here will always have, their insurance rates will be better, because now you're able to fund the water lines so that you can have better fire protection, you can have more fire hydrants. You don't have the failures of a sewer system, you don't have the failures of a water system. And when you're doing that, you're also planning your street process, rebuilding process, because you don't want to build a street and then have to go back in there and replace your infrastructure, underground infrastructure. Once you replace your infrastructure, your street projects are part of your drainage master plan. Correct. All this works in. So it's going to be, let's call it 5 years before you can start anything. But for those 5 years, you're banking to help fund those projects. And now, instead of just having one account to draw from, you're gathering at least an extra, maybe two extra funding sources to redevelop the infrastructure for downtown, so that the nice downtown can happen in the next 10 to 15 years.
We have an obligation to the residents that live in Old Town today to facilitate the water and sewer maintenance. And regardless of whether we use a TERS mechanism or we don't, because you're banking on debt, you're banking on an increase in taxes, but 90%, I don't know what the percentage is, but make a number up of those folks are at frozen tax rates. They're not going to go up and up and up because they're over a certain age or they're handicapped in that area. And so the issue is really, it is, Justin, our responsibility as the council to come along beside you and ensure that all of the citizens, regardless of this plan or not, have water and fire hydrants, reliable sewage systems. The benefit of us coming together and focusing on those things first is that then these kinds of creative ways of funding things can take place. But honestly, this is not a smoke and mirror show for Old Town. This is an opportunity for us to repair old infrastructure that is our obligation to do. And we have the benefit of having a really cool area, right? Come out of it. Someplace that may have some pretty snappy, I mean, go to that pastry corner. Yum. You know,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
agree with
And if you don't mind, if I can just add to that a bit. So EDC is not funding the redevelopment of downtown. EDC funded the study to create the plan for the redevelopment and to find the needs of downtown, of Old Town. That's what this study has identified, is the needs of our Old Town to be able to do that. Now, we've also in the process, we all understand what the needs are. And
well, I want to be clear. I want to be clear.
Yeah,
We
what-
do not need a study to determine that we
didn't- we
needed a
didn't have the
flood
study to
study.
determine
We
that.
do not need a study to determine we needed pipes and fire hydrants. We did not need a study for that.
Clancy?
We did
Got
not
something to say?
create the study to do that, so, yeah. Who was talking?
The Old Town study was funded through EDC dollars, yes.
Yes.
Think of this as a minor playbook, like our strategic economic development plan talks about infrastructure improvements. When we get down to the granular that Mayor Latimer is talking about, I think what we're getting at right now, and this is probably perfect timing, for our two bodies to get together into a joint workshop and discuss priorities for sections of town. We know I-10, we want to grow the tax base there to ease the tax burden on our residents. That's in our strategic plan. We want to invest in our Old Town to make our businesses as successful as possible, but also our residents that call that place home as comfortable as possible. This plan will not be the end-all be-all. This plan may not get 100% implemented. This plan is a guide to our future. And much like our strategic economic development plan, we've made tweaks along the way. This plan, once adopted, can be tweaked, can be modified in any way we see fit for the current environment that we're in when we get to that point.
It's a
So
look
what I
at
would
what can
recommend
be.
is kind of looking at it like the mayor's looking at it. Infrastructure is an immediate need. We know that.
Absolutely.
And by building bridges between the EDC board and council and even, I don't want to say CIP board, but that's not right, but Public Works, we've made investments in downtown. We've shown we want to make investments into the infrastructure. Between this body and council, we approved $40,000 in new lighting to improve safety. So we can go through that same process again when it comes to infrastructure. It may be a situation where CIP funds the street, we figure out how to fund a water, sewer, and we look for grants to cover the rest. But there is commonalities there where both bodies can come together. I want you to think of this as a holistic approach.
Well,
The mayor's
in a large part, one of the issues that I have, Clancy, is we've done this before in the past where we've implemented an Old Town plan. We changed zoning classifications. We did, and we're getting ready to try to do that same monkey shakeout, right? We're going to go looking at creating zoning classifications that kind of tie into this that don't even exist right now and couldn't really exist in the near future. And so I want to be as transparent and as upfront as possible to say, I'm I'm not willing to go through that again. There were people from Old Town standing up here with their fists in the air, and there was unfair treatment of folks in the Old Town area, and we're going to get ready. And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat.
I think
It
is,
happened in
but
2014. We're doing it again.
I think we have to start somewhere. And this, when you say we've had these plans and it went nowhere, that's shame on us, because we could have started wherever we wanted to. And if the issue was infrastructure, then EDC and city council could have come together and said, let's work a way to
Absolutely.
do that so we can move forward with the plan.
And those are nice words. Those are really nice words, but I'm about the rubber and it meeting the road, and we're getting ready to do exactly the same thing that we did last time that created so many problems for our citizens. And so, yes, I agree with this plan. I think it was great input. I think it's a great plan. I think we're getting ready to do the exact same thing we did before, ad nauseum, and I don't think it's a good idea. So before we bring or approve the plan, we should have the UDC class types.
Workshop.
No, there's a name for what I'm looking for. The uses table. We should have the uses table available, and we should be able to look at that uses table and say, if somebody came in here tomorrow, could we apply this uses table to this construct, this idea? Could we really make that happen? Because if we can or we can't, then we either don't put the plan in place or we don't put that land use in the uses table. Or we make it a cup, or we do something that prevents all of the badness that happened before. Because you can go back and watch the videos. I lived them. Cody, Terry, we all did. So we just need to be very sure that we're not going to do that again.
Well, I know we've implemented a lot with the EDC with our strategic plan directly from our staff here. We've been making sure we implement. If we're willing to put the time and effort into it, we're willing to do what we can with it. There's no reason to waste money and not do something, and being able to see what needs to be done, how we can do it. If we can't do it in 10 years, okay, we can start with something, and we can move forward to help the economic development of the community and help the constituents and everybody that visits down here. We want the best for all of them. And it takes both of our boards and all of us to come together and simply understand that we're here to do the best for them, not just because it looks pretty.
I just want to be upfront and honest. I'm going to recuse myself from this vote, as there are multiple places in the downtown or Old Town area that I live and family members live, so I'm going to recuse myself from this vote, just a FYI.
Good?
Are we voting today?
No?
We're not voting to approve this?
Yeah, just,
Discussion action, but I don't believe it's
yeah.
So do we no vote?
If there is a vote, we'll.
Well, it's going to go to city council. I don't know if we have to approve it to go to city council or not. So that's-
Where
It's already
you're,
going to city council, from my understanding, right?
Well, I
She's
know,
doing the
but
presentation?
for us to adopt it, for us, say, give our stamp of approval on it for city council.
So if they live in Old Town, they have to recuse themselves?
No, we don't have to, but I'm going to.
Oh.
We don't have to, but I'm going to.
I have a question still.
If you can own a business or live in Old Town and vote, I think your voice matters.
No, I mean, I understand that, I do, but I'm gonna sit this one out.
Better safe than sorry.
Can
Yeah.
I have one more question. So in the presentation, there were multiple conversations about partnerships. And I saw a picture of chicken and pickle. I'm sure that was just a visual. But I guess my question was, is there an expectation of a partnership that you're saying could help with the infrastructure? I.e. the HEB, that they did some of the road work, from my understanding, I don't know. But is that what happened?
HEB would be required.
That was a requirement, but it was also an investment on their part. That was part of the process, right?
It was a requirement.
So what,
They did the park. They did the park.
When the deal was facilitated for HEB to come, the economic development deal, part of it included widening the trail, and the city paid the cost difference, the EDC paid the cost difference of that, about $15,000.
Oh.
We, and this deal was prior to my arrival, but there were credits involved for development. But part of that deal to make it come together was a requirement for HEB to improve that intersection. But also, as part of the economic development deal, they get a rebate on their property taxes for a set amount of years. So this year was $30,000 back on their property taxes. That's maintenance operation. Once they hit $1 million in that deal's done. So it was a carrot, like the mayor was saying, that was the carrot to get them here, but also it serviced our needs to improve that intersection. So we are paying over time, but it's capped out at $1 million, but that intersection did not cost $1 million. Cost probably way more than that. And that saved us money with tech stock too. So that's how economic development can work to improve infrastructure in an area that needs it, and get quality of life amenities for the community, which includes the pond. We built the parking lot there. They widened the trail to connect to the rest of the trail system there. So we're paying for it, but over time, over 10 years, instead of CIP saving 5 years, HEB outflowed the cash with the expectation that provided they perform in their performance deal, they get their rebate on their property taxes.
I guess my point was that we could potentially bring some of these things to bear faster if maybe there are some partnerships along the way. Obviously, infrastructure comes first. I understand that, and I support that. But I wonder if that can be done in conjunction with some of these smaller projects to start.
I think that's the idea behind a plan and a vision, is because once you have a vision, like HEB helped with the trail, but that trail was on a plan, I imagine, already. If you don't have the plan to begin with, it's really hard to make asks. So that's where the plan comes in, as a good guiding, plan for how that area can develop. And so in this, we've got some trails about how you could connect those trails in. If you've got some of the larger redevelopments that happen along, I think it was here we showed, yeah. If you've got some of these, like Loop 539 in here, if you've got some of this that develops, and you've got some plans that trails behind it and things like that, then those are things that, if you're having a negotiation, you can ask for, because it's in a plan. So it helps with that, to guide for those things.
So what else do we need to do with this?
That's also where the TERS, if a TERS was
That's right.
to be chosen, that's where a TERS, say you're receiving $1,000 a year on vacant land, but now you have some sort of commercial or industrial complex on that property, now you're receiving $15,000 a year. And so now you're implementing this plan faster, the needs for utilities and such as that gets paid for quicker.
One of the places that I've seen it used is, I worked in San Marcos for a long time. You can see it, a TERS, their TERS plan allowed for property owners to, they had to build the sidewalk in front of them, but if there was a gap next to them to get to the next sidewalk, then you could use TERS funds to just fill that little gap in there. And so those are the kinds of partnerships. Then that developer builds it, which is less expensive than a CIP project to go out and build it. So those are the types of partnerships that can happen once you have a plan established.
I just want to acknowledge all of y'all and your comments. We definitely appreciate the feedback. I think this is good for us to go forward. I would just want to say as a caveat to, if you all feel comfortable with making a recommendation, you can, but of course that is up to you all in terms of if you want to make a recommendation to council in regards to how you feel on this plan for approval or denial. we can move that up to council so that they're aware of your decision on this plan. And of course, and again, the comments that you all made, we can definitely try to incorporate those. I know that we've had a meeting with the mayor prior to this meeting, to this actual EDC meeting in regards to some of what's shown on the slides and within the plan. So there are some minor tweaks that we can make. But again, this is a policy document. So policy meaning that it gives us guidance, kind of like what's been referenced throughout today. It informs the decision of our regulatory documents like the zoning and land uses within our development code, but it's simply a policy document.
So what would you need from us, a motion or just an action? What would it be?
Yeah, if you feel comfortable making a motion for approval or denial as a body, feel free to do so.
Or if you want to wait until you have a meeting with council, I can call a special meeting if you would rather that.
Honestly, I would rather have a special meeting with this.
I was just going to recommend that.
Cool.
I've had the opportunity to see this grow from conversation to where it is now. It's a very well-written document. And as we spoke earlier, I've had the pleasure of being married to an English teacher for almost 42 years now. But then through that, some things I picked up through osmosis. So it's well-written. It's not a document that's fraught with grammar or spelling errors that would make you concerned about the whole document in and of itself. So I think you've done a fantastic job with this. This is not some sort of grand plan of what I think a new city should look like. This is how do you grow Cibolo? How do you support Cibolo? And how do you keep Cibolo from stagnating? So I'm perfectly fine with having another conversation with council. This is certainly something that the council members need to be able to review well, in depth before they have a conversation at a meeting about. But I've participated in, and I've read this document, stem to stern, and it's a good document. So.
Thank you.
So either we get a motion to table this, or push it forward.
I believe the action would be to request a special meeting, to table and request a special meeting with city council at a date to be determined. And we will let the mayor, as the ex officio capacity of this board, spearhead that effort. It could, I'm looking at the calendar right now, I think it's very possible if it could happen on June 9th, but I don't want you to put a date on it. It's the earliest available time that both bodies can meet to discuss it. So, as Frank said, table with the caveat that we would like a special meeting or workshop with city council to go through this.
So I need a motion for that.
I motion to table this presentation for now until such time as we can have a coordinated meeting with city council and the EDC.
That work? That work?
Second.
Kevin, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, ayes have it. Kevin. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's a good document. There's
I have a question about
a ton of
the
information.
logistics of it. So when you make a motion, do you still say aye?
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't double dipping.
Sorry for how small this is, it's just.
Oh my gosh, I saw this on there. So we're not reading it, is what you're telling me.
Is it in Braille?
But I'll go through it.
I apologize, my
It won't take
bus is
long.
in Austin. Back up.
Justin, when you're ready.
Yes. So we're going to move on to 8B, discussion direction on fiscal year 2027 budget priorities and memorandum of understanding agreement with the city of Cibolo. Clancy.
Okay, so we're back. It's the item that's going to live with you until probably August or September. What you have in front of you in very tiny type, I will send to you in an email. When I exported it out of our budgeting system, it made it into 8-point font, which I could not change.
Isn't it here?
It's not in there, it's under separate cover.
Okay.
I didn't have it ready at the time, I was trying to get the text to grow, and it just turned into a whole thing. But when I email it, you'll be able to see all the line items. Some of the things, just to go over this very quickly, very briefly, you will see increases in our advertising, marketing, and promo. And this is just our proposal. We will have to wait until the finance department gives us the projection. But proposing, because the EDC board, we will propose to fund a marketing admin position starting in fiscal year 27. We increased the marketing budget a little bit to give that position leeway to place ads and start marketing our program and our services and everything, because we're not doing nothing, but we're doing this much when a position can take this much and get the word out.
And that's with the website too, right?
Sir?
That'll be part of the website also? Like
The
building a
website is a one-time cost, so technically we can pull the one-time cost, it's 40,000 out of fund balance, but that is included in the marketing budget
Okay.
right now. But it would be a one-time cost.
Right.
So we wouldn't have to, the way the budget works, it wouldn't be a recurring expense next year, other than the hosting, which could potentially be a couple $100. But the
Okay.
full redesign of it, I've budgeted 40,000, and I've developed a proposal that we'll be sending out in conjunction with the purchasing manager.
Okay.
So there are increases to that. These aren't set in stone, given that I have not received the magic number, if you will, what to stay within. Another thing you will see in this budget is that we've increased conference travel and training, and predominantly that's in 2 new line item columns that are shown internally. One is recruitment trips, both domestic and international. And those trips, like we talked about during the workshop, would include city staff, elected officials, members of this board. It wouldn't just be Luke, Rick, and I going to these. It would be other bodies going to that. And then retention visits. If we don't visit Aishan, they don't know we exist. You know, they make decisions based on numbers, but if you're there visiting them at least once a year, making and keeping that relationship. Same thing. It could be 2 to 3 people. It could be members of this board. It could be the mayor. It could be members of council. It could be the city manager. It could be Rick. It's just whoever makes up the trip. In addition to that, I've added in here, and I'm still working on how it can benefit us, becoming a member of the Austin Chamber to tap into the tech ecosystem that's there to see if we can lure some of that business down. I'm still trying to find the value with them right now. We've gotten great value out of the Greater San Antonio Chamber. I mean, the air show alone was 4 prospect meetings, so money very well spent. If we can do that with the Austin Chamber and tapping into that pipeline, we will by all means do that. And also, we are going to rejoin the Industrial Asset Management Council. It's IAMC. This is where industrial site selectors go. It's just basically where deals come together. Site selectors, people that manage businesses, assets, they are at these meetings. So I put a membership in there. Let's see what else. And when I say this is a document developed between Rick, myself, and Luke. Those are the only real major increases. Other than what you will see that's not on that document you have printed is the salaries that we had discussed during the workshop. So my salary and benefits, Luke's salary and benefits, and then 1/3 of Rick. We get the best third of Rick is what I always say. So 1/3 of his share of his salary and benefits because he is our director. This will evolve. I will send out it as it stands right now, probably Tuesday because I'm taking tomorrow off after a long week. But I wanted to get this out in front of you all to show that we're working on it. The proposals are due to finance on June 1st, and then they'll go through it. This budget will come back to you in full, and you will see every line item, and you will be able to ask questions, vote on it, everything in between. This budget does not pass you all and go straight to City Council, but City Council priorities can go back and forth. So just to keep you updated on that. That's all for the budget. I don't have it with me right now. It kind of got late in the week. But with our memorandum of understanding between the city and the Economic Development Corporation, I've been working with Frank and between Mr. Reed's office and city manager's office. Wow. I have never been here when it's rained like that. So, sorry about that. We're working between the offices right now to clear up the language when it relates to ED staff being city employees, but being paid out of the ED fund, just the legalese, if you will. No offense, Frank. So I hope to have that red line draft form to you all during the June meeting. We're really close. Wayne has one last review of it, and then it will be ready. It will look similar to previous years. It will have a pay table on the bottom for support services, such as like you see in your finances every month. Jessica helps us with the financial reporting, or Lily helps us with PO reviews and et cetera. With that and hearing the rain, that's all I have for budget and MOU. I appreciate it. As always, any questions, email me, call me. Rick the same, Luke the same. So.
Yeah.
Yes, I will send one you can zoom in on. It just wouldn't let me edit it for some reason. It wouldn't let me really get
Can I ask one question quickly?
Sure.
So, as a newbie, I don't have 2026 budget to compare to 2027 budget. Can you just do a line item, a line that shows the 26 budget plus expense, and then so I can
Yes.
compare that to
Yeah,
27?
what we're doing right now is our year-end estimates right now, and then we're also proposing for 27. So I can marry those together so you can see what was approved in 27, or excuse me, for this
25.
fiscal year, and then what's approved, well, what's proposed for next fiscal year.
Thank
We
you.
can match them next to each other.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, any more questions? Good. All right, we'll move on to 9, future agenda items.
Quick one with this too, as I mentioned the last few meetings, this Excel spreadsheet looks the same, it's smaller, but we can zoom in on this one. So there were no requests in March or April. I do have one update regarding the EV charging stations. As you know, Luke and I attended the ICSC Las Vegas this past week. We had a great conversation with a company that provides a turnkey solution for electric vehicle charging. And it's no money out of our pocket. It almost sounds too good to be true, so much so we set up a meeting with them for Wednesday to get the full spiel from them, not the 5-10 minute version around 100 other people. But they don't require a minimum. The thing I was running into is we're talking about grant funding, spending all this money, is Tesla superchargers require 10. Electrify America requires 10. This one will place 1, and they'll be done. And it's where we want to put it. It's not where they want to put it. So that's one update on this future agenda items. Hopefully I'll have that in the June meeting. We'll probably have a little bit more robust agenda during that meeting. But outside of that, that's the one update for future items. And then, of course, if anybody on the board needs additional items.
Does anybody have anything for future agenda items? No? Trustee Terry? Charity?
No, right now, thank you.
I want everybody to approve my big, huge Cibolo buffalo, but other than that, I'm good.
The Buffalo
I
Shark.
want to see a hand-drawn image of it.
I know, right?
Cody?
No.
Good? So if there's nothing for future agenda items, set date and time for the next meeting, which would be
June 19th.
18th?
Yeah, we don't do on 19th, that's a holiday.
So it'll be,
The 19th is a Friday.
yeah, so,
I
So-
just thought I was really cool like that, just yelling it out, like, I know.
so it'll be set for June 18th, 6:30, same time. And if nothing else,
Motion adjourn?
I second that.
it's been moved and second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. I appreciate
I
it.
wanted to stay
Oh,
one more
we're out at
hour.
8:09.
You may need to.
I know, right?